Is A.J. Brown making a push to be the best wideout in the NFL? We'll let our resident receiver Jason Avant stack the Eagles stars against the other top players at his position. Plus, our top 25 countdown continues with a potential breakout star this season, second-year edge rusher Nix Hunt. As we look around the league, can Kellen Moore turn the Saints around after helping to lead the Eagles to a Super Bowl title? And with that, welcome into Birds Huddle, presented by Toyota, official automotive partner of the NFL, along with Jason Avant. I'm Ashlyn Sullivan. Great to have it back here in the studios.
Yeah, it's great to be back. Yeah, I'm enjoying the summertime, but I'm getting ready for the birds.
Right around the corner, that's for sure. And the Link has been hosting the FIFA World Cup in just a couple of months, and here is the game tonight. But A.J. Brown worked out with a club from Brazil this week and posted this funny story on his Instagram account. Check it out.
Man, let me give y'all a little story time real quick. So, soccer team, you know, they got the FIFA World Cup here in Philly. So they came out here to practice today. So I'm out here talking to the players or whatever, trying to, you know, they speak Portuguese. And so our guy on our staff, he's talking to them, and they talking about like how fast they run, and he's the fastest, and he's talking about, and our guy's talking about, oh, AJ's really, really fast, and they measure how fast people are with the 40. So he like, AJ run 4.2, 4.3, 4.2. I'm looking like 4.2. Well, I ain't never ran a 4.2 in my life, or 4.3. But hey, whole time I'm over there like, hype me up. It was so funny, bro. But I was just like, bro, I done ran 23 miles per hour, but 4.2, nah. Man, let me give y'all a little story.
4.2. That's pretty fast.
4.2
That's real
really fast, yeah.
And with that, it's time for our three-point stance presented by Toyota. Number one, A.J. Brown might be the best wide receiver in the NFL. We've put together our own list of the top 5 wideouts, and we think when we're looking at this, how do you think we did here? A.J. Brown, number one. But yeah, we're a little biased here. What do you think, Jason?
You guys are definitely biased, but I don't mind that because A.J. Brown, when it comes to touchdowns and it comes to targets, the amount of targets that he gets for his production is outstanding. In his past 3 years, he's averaging 15 yards a catch. And also, when you consider the guys that are in front of him, the guys when it comes to yards, Justin Jefferson, these guys are getting 300-400 targets over the last 3 years. A.J. Brown is right at the number 300 in the last 3 years, and he's still just as productive, still top 3 in receptions and yards. So A.J. Brown's an outstanding receiver. And you take away his ability sometimes because of the run game. Saquon Barkley gets the ball a bunch, so he doesn't get the numbers that he should just because of Saquon's Barkley's ability to run the ball.
Yeah, and sometimes it seemed like that was every single week last season. That's why I'm so curious how they're going to adapt to this passing game this season, because you see A.J. Brown, the lack of targets. You're a receiver, you get this. How long are you okay with the amount of targets that you're getting?
Well, it's about being efficient, and this is what this guy is really good at. He's efficient when he catches the ball and he does something after the catch. That's why he's special, and he doesn't need a bunch. He just needs timely plays. I think that he is still the second best player on our team behind Saquon, and Jalen is a close third. But A.J. Brown is one of those guys that when he touches the ball, good things happen, and he needs more targets. You can't get him all the time with Saquon because he's the number one guy, but he's right there, and I think that he's done a good job. Even though he reads on the sideline, he'll be just fine in the future.
He will be just fine, especially I think when you think about the best receivers in the league, it's the guys that show up in the biggest moments, right? Yeah. And I don't think you make an argument that A.J. Brown, anyone bigger, shows up when it's so crucial to make a big play. You're always looking at him.
Well, the reason he shows up in those big moments is that he doesn't need the offense coordinator to manufacture offense for him. He's a guy that you can go out and run a slant, a curl, just basic routes, and he wins because of his size, his body, and he has great quickness along with that big, strong body that can run after the catch and make touchdowns. Just get guys off of him. A.J. Brown's elite.
Yes, he is. Number one on our list, at least for that. Now let's go to defense here. Number 2, the Eagles be able to replace Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. On yesterday's show, we spoke with Brian Baldinger, who said the Eagles will definitely miss CJGJ. Take a listen.
So I think there's one significant loss, and it's Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. I mean, he's been in Philadelphia twice, Taryn. He's led the league in interceptions in one of those years. He's got 12 takeaways. He's a pit bull, and he bothers people. He irritates his own teammates, his coaches. But that's okay because all he does is produce. And I just think he's a guy that's going to be difficult because you want your safeties to take the ball away. You want to threaten the friendly skies with the ball down the middle of the field. And he's a threat.
Well, we can't say that we were surprised when CJGJ was traded. We know that he is a personality in that locker room and definitely had trade assets, got a lot in return for that. But I was always thinking with a playmaker like him, it almost seems like right now the safety position is almost by committee. It's tough to replace a CJGJ plug and play with another guy.
Well, it'll be tough to replace him for the first 4 or 5 games because you have a bunch of young guys with inexperience. You have Sidney Brown, you have Makumba that's coming in. But CJGJ is a guy that's been inspirational. He's a guy that motivates everyone. He gets the ball back and he does well in coverage. The thing that he does really poorly is tackle. And when it comes to his stats in tackling, he is in that bottom third of all safeties when it comes to tackling. And also he gave up 5 touchdowns in a low red zone. 4 was, mentioned in Pro Football Focus, and 1 was a blown assignment, which they didn't give him credit for. So he's a guy that's given up some touchdowns, and he doesn't do well in the run game. So I think that we can replace him after 4 or 5 weeks of getting the guys acclimated to playing at this level.
Right. I also think when you look at defensive coordinator Vic Fangio, he's a guy we've seen him go to bat for certain guys, right? Like Zack Baun's a great example of that. When I saw CJGJ leave the building and Vic Fangio allow it, it showed me that Vic Fangio thinks that he can replace this guy. Because if it was that much where it was like, oh my gosh, we're really going to miss him, I do think Vic Fangio would have something to say about that.
Yeah, sometimes you should say less and just play more and do more. And that's one of those things that will be a life lesson for CJGJ, is that it's not about his play so much and his fire on the field. It's about the media, and it's about him just giving bulletin board material week after week. It gets worn out. You have to be exceptional player. You have to be Saquon, A.J. Brown, Jalen Hurts, that top tier players. Once you're in that 10 range, 11 range, and you're not in that top 10, they don't have any patience for it. So it's one of those things that he can learn for the future.
Yes, that makes a lot of sense. And now to number 3, the Eagles will own the NFC East. The Eagles are heavy favorites to win the division yet again this year. No team has repeated as division champ since Donovan McNabb's Birds from 2002 through 2004. Will the Eagles end that streak this season, Jason?
I'm going to say this with my heart, and I'm going to say that the Eagles will do it, but I'm scared. You know why? Not because the Eagles aren't talented enough, just because Saquon Barkley on the Madden cover. It's been 20 consecutive years since the Eagles, since a team have, won back-to-back. So the Eagles have a bunch of things going against it when it comes to curses and history and things like
Bad
that.
juju.
So I just don't want that. But other than that, I think that we're the most talented team. Some teams have made up some ground, though.
Yeah, I think when you look at it just from an X's and O's standpoint, to me, truthfully, when I think about that, I think of the Commanders. I think that they are going to be a scary team. I get the Cowboys. They bring in George Pickens. But I think this Commanders team right now, with Jaden Daniels playing on that rookie contract, what they've been able to do in free agency, I'm nervous about that just from a football standpoint, besides the bad juju, which is there as well.
Well, yeah, the Commanders are the team to look out for because they have went and got Deebo Samuels, who can, go against Quinyon and Cooper. And then defensive front, you've bolstered that in Javon Kinlaw, Eddie Goldman, Jonathan Jones at cornerback there to go against a guy like Devontae Smith, guys that have Pro Bowl experience. So they have answered the bell, and they have created a roster just to try to beat the Eagles. So I'm looking forward to that matchup this year.
We are back here on Birds Huddle, and we're continuing to count down our list of the top 25 most important Eagles for the 2025 season. Today, we'll focus on edge rusher Nix Hunt, who comes in at number 17. Well, we've been on a big run of defensive players lately. Jason Avant, this is your first time on the show since we started the countdown. How do you make the list so far?
I think you guys are doing a pretty good job. I think Andrew Maguma is going to have something to say about this in the future. He's going to call us out one of these days. 25th on your list?
And I like that Tanner McKee. Good backup quarterback talk on the list. You got to have it. But as we said, Nix Hunt is number 17. He's entering his second season here with the Birds, and definitely a third-round pick out of Houston Christian. He began his college career at Cornell as a safety, interesting enough, before transferring and changing positions as a rookie. Didn't play much early on. We didn't see a lot out of him. And then all of a sudden, he exploded out of the gate. You see 3 sacks there, but really, it was his play in the playoffs that was so impressive, showing up in big moments. But I think a lot of the question is now, okay, we've seen that, right? But can he do it again in year 2?
Yeah, that's the problem. He doesn't have many snaps. You're talking about 240 snaps in the season, so we don't know what he will be. We're just hoping that he can replicate the Super Bowl performance where he had 5 pressures and 4 hurries and a sack. We want that Nix Hunt, and he can continue to mature at that level. He's going to get the opportunities, though. And it has to say something about a veteran defensive coordinator not bringing in Von Miller, not bringing in Joey Bosa, not bringing in some stalwart veteran because they believe in the future. Sounds like last year a little bit, not bringing in certain guys because they believed in Zach Baun, they believed in Nakobe Dean. So I think that they have it right with Nix Hunt.
No, you got to trust Vic Fangio, that's for sure. He's a proven track record. But I was a little surprised when they let Josh Sweat go. I think you're putting a lot on Nix Hunt's plate. And yes, he showed it, but we haven't seen it consistently. So I was just thinking it was just a bit surprised where it's like, give him the green light and go and hope for the best.
Yeah, it was give him the green light and go, but it wasn't just hope for the best because you brought in veterans right behind them.
Yeah.
It's a common thread with Howie and the way that Vic Fangio works this. Okay, we're going to allow the young guys to have their opportunity, but we're going to put a large Ojulari right behind him. We're going to put Josh Uche right behind him to give those guys motivation and confidence, but also put a little pressure on him. Let him know that if you don't come to play, these veterans are right behind you and they are proven and they can do the job. So I think it's a great way to motivate young players, and I think it worked last year to work this year.
It's a huge year for Nix Hunt, that's for sure, because if he can keep this up and he can prove to be a consistent player, you got to think maybe he's your long-term answer there at pass rusher. What do you think?
That's what we're hoping for. We're hoping that we can hit a diamond in the rough just like we did with Zach Baun, just like we've done with multiple guys. So hopefully Nix Hunt can be that person. The Eagles are definitely dependent on. I'm just going to trust the process. I'm going to give Howie the benefit of the doubt. I'm going to give Vic Fangio the benefit of the doubt. And they saw something in this young player that promoted him to be the starter over a lot of veterans and didn't go out in the free agent market. So I think he's going to be just fine. I'm going to believe them.
Yeah, he's got the athletic ability, that's for sure. And earlier this offseason, Hunt was asked about how different things are for him going into year 2. Take a listen.
This offseason, I just know a lot more of what is expected of me and what to expect from tackles and different players across the league. So I just know a lot more. So I've been able to approach my game in a more professional way by figuring out, what moves I want to work on, who I should watch, what I should watch, being a lot more technical, because that's the biggest difference that I've seen, is that players who are elite and good, their technicality levels are on completely different levels. So if I want to be great at this position and in this league, I got to be technical. So that's what I've really been focused on, and that's what I think has really changed between last year and this year.
Well, that doesn't sound like a player just going into year 2, speaking like a true pro. And the Eagles have done everything they can to put Nix Hunt in a successful position. He learned from Josh Sweat. He's got Vic Fangio, one of the most historic defensive coaches, behind him. Every opportunity to be the player that he can be here.
And you got Jalen Carter in the middle, anchoring this defense. So you're going to get a lot of one-on-ones. So I'm expecting him to do big things. And when you get drafted out in the 3rd round from Houston Christian, you're a good player. It just doesn't happen like that overnight, and I think that he's just waiting for his opportunity, just like a guy like Sidney Brown. These young players, we're going to see them mature, and this will be the next crop that leads us to the Super Bowl. A guy like Nix Hunt, where Howie's going to get a lot of credit for going forward.
Absolutely, and now when you look at this defensive core right now, you have Nix Hunt, you have Nolan Smith, figured to be the starters off the edge of this season. The Eagles, as we mentioned, also brought in some free agents, some veteran presence there. To me, it's a little bit pass rush by committee. When you look at this, Jason, do they have enough here?
I think they do. And I think it's all predicated upon the ones that have had it before. Nolan Smith has turned the corner. No pulling guard wants to see him come around the edge on Nolan Smith. He's knocking guys out of the game, and you have the best interior defensive lineman in Jalen Carter. Now you just need these guys to be productive on the outside. Nix Hunt will be a guy that we're watching, but Ojulari is a guy that's been successful. Uche's a first-round pick that's been hurt but had some really good snaps in his first year. So our guys will be committee, but that's not a bad thing because we have a guy in the middle that can anchor it. Two guys, Jalen Carter and Zack Baun that's anchoring our defense.
Yeah, and they might have to pay Jalen Carter as well. So it might be better by committee where you don't have to pay as much money. We're looking ahead here.
And we're blitzing and doing all that stuff. Zack Baun
working.
in a rush, Jahad Campbell in the rush.
Don't worry about it.